A SIP trunk creates a connection from your switchbox to a VoIP provider or another SIP-enabled device using the SIP protocol in order to make it receive calls to the outside world. Under Setup, Call Routing, VoIP Providers, we can create a SIP provider that can be either an upstream carrier, a session border controller, or gateway that is managing our external SIP traffic, or another PBX that we want to peer to. In this example, we'll create a SIP provider connection to make it receive calls using SIPStation, Sangoma's SIP trunking service. To do so, log into your SIPStation account. We have the ability to purchase a phone number along with the trunks. Let's go ahead and pull in a Toronto phone number. Selected my DID. Choose the amount of trunks that you want to purchase. Skip faxing if you don't have fax service on the switchbox. When you're ready, proceed to checkout. We'll have a breakdown of your items and your charges. Click the checkbox confirmation and confirm your order when ready. Once your services are ready to go, let's head over to My Account. Click on Trunk Groups. Generally, you'll have one trunk group per location, so you can create more by clicking the Create Trunk Group button. We're going to go ahead and use one that we've already got set up here. Expand the tab with the arrow. We'll see here our SIPStation key code as well as our SIP username and password. We're going to want to copy the SIPStation key code and head back over to our switchbox. Click Create SIPStation Setup. Enter in that SIPStation key code. Now by default, you'll need a callback extension or a destination for calls. This can be any extension in the system. And we can create incoming DID routes so that we can match incoming calls to this provider. Complete SIPStation setup when ready. And as you can see, that key code has actually imported all of the settings that we need to communicate with the trunk in our account. If you'd like to do this process manually without the key code, you can go back into your account. Again, here's the username and the password you'd need. And down here, you're going to see the list of host names for the gateway and other information related to getting your trunk set up manually. So for all other providers, let's walk through the setup by clicking Create SIP Provider again. Give the provider a descriptive name and enter in the SIP trunk details such as username and password and the host name and IP. And again, that callback extension for the default destination. Under the Peer Settings tab, select whether this connection is a voice provider or another VoIP device such as a gateway, an SBC, or another PBX by selecting Peer. Next, you can specify if calls to and from this provider will use all or some of the incoming and outgoing rules as created under Setup Call Routing. Quick note, if you want to set up peered switchboxes, you are better off to visit this section rather than peering them here under the SIP providers. If your provider accepts dynamic caller ID sent from your system, enable support changing caller ID. You can then choose the method and the caller ID. And check with your provider if you're not familiar with the specific details of this trunk. The Connection Settings tab gives us more configuration options if needed. Check with your provider for any additional information needed, such as proxy host address. For connections that use an authentication method, you'll want to set always trust this provider to no and qualify host to yes. This will tell Switchvox to authenticate calls from the provider and show the trunk's connection status under VoIP providers and the server diagnostics tool or the connection status tool. If your provider sends traffic from multiple IP addresses, you can add them under the SIP provider host list, avoiding the need to create multiple trunks with different IPs from the same carrier. Call Settings tab has additional information related to codecs, both audio and video, map distinctive ringing, and re-invite behavior, etc. You also have fact-specific settings for the provider if you're supporting T38 over SIP. Click Save Provider once you're finished, and you can view the connection status afterwards to determine if the connection is successful by going to the Connection Status button. If the connection is not successful, you can start by running the diagnostics tool. And once again, if you need to peer with another Switchvox, the recommended method is to do so under Setup, Call Routing, Peered Switchvoxes. And once you establish a connection with another Switchvox and the data is synced successfully, you can call users between devices as if they were local extensions and utilize different call routes to external carriers. As a final note, remember to open up RTP port ranges 10,000 to 20,000 UDP to allow media traffic in and out of your Switchvox device through the network. You're also going to need to open up port 5060 UDP for the SIP communication traffic, also 5060 for TCP if you're using TCP, and 5061 TCP for TLS. You can, however, change the RTP range if needed by your provider or if it's just a requirement based on your network design. So that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to set up VoIP providers and SIP trunking with SIPStation or with other providers that you may have. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next segment.